You think you understand size. A room feels large. A building feels larger. A city can feel endless when you are inside it. You walk through streets, you pass buildings, you look up, and they seem to rise above you. From where you stand, everything feels proportional, understandable. A step has a distance, a wall has a height, a road has a length, and all of it fits comfortably inside your mind, because your mind was built for this scale. It was built to understand what you can reach, what you can see, what you can move through, not what exists beyond it. But even here, something is already not quite right, because what feels large to you depends entirely on where you are standing. A building feels tall until you see it from above. A city feels endless until you fly over it. And from that height, something strange happens. What once felt complex becomes simple. What once felt large becomes small. And what once felt important begins to blur. So already, your sense of size is not fixed. It changes. It adapts. It depends on perspective. Now imagine moving higher, not in a rush, just slowly rising. The city fades. The roads disappear. The buildings become shapes. And then, even those shapes begin to lose detail. Now you are no longer seeing places. You are seeing patterns, light and dark, land and water. And at this level, something else becomes clear. The world you experience is not the world as it is. It is the world as it appears from where you are. Now come back down again, back to the ground, back to where everything feels normal, where distances make sense, where size feels real, because this is where the illusion begins. You feel like you understand scale, but you only understand it within a very narrow range, a range defined by your body, your reach, your movement, your experience. And outside that range, your intuition begins to fail, not immediately, but quietly, because the universe does not break your understanding at once. It stretches it, little by little, until eventually it no longer holds. And that is where we are going. Not quickly, but slowly, from what feels large to what is actually large, from what makes sense to what no longer does. And by the time we are done, you will not lose your sense of size completely, but it will no longer feel as stable as it does right now. Because somewhere along the way, scale will stop being something you understand and become something you feel. And once that happens, you cannot fully go back. Stay here for a moment, right where you are, because this is the scale your mind trusts. You know how far a step is. You know how wide a room feels. You know how long it takes to walk from one place to another. These are not things you calculate. You feel them. And that feeling is what creates your sense of size. Now notice something subtle. When you imagine something large, you usually imagine something you could still move through. A long road, a large building, a wide landscape. Even when something feels big, it still feels reachable, because your mind quietly assumes that distance can be crossed, that time will be enough, that movement is possible. But this assumption is about to break, not suddenly, but slowly. Because what we are moving toward is not just bigger space. It is space where movement no longer solves distance. Before that happens, let's stay here a little longer. Imagine walking through a city at night. The lights are on, windows glowing, streets stretching forward. Everything feels alive, connected. You move through it, step by step, and no matter how large it feels, it is still something you can cross. Given enough time, you could walk across it. This is important because it means your idea of large is always tied to effort.
If something takes time, you call it big. If something takes longer, you call it bigger. But in the universe, there are distances where time stops helping, where effort does not reduce scale, where movement does not bring you meaningfully closer. And your mind has no instinct for that. So it tries to shrink everything back into something manageable, something familiar, something it can hold. That is why numbers alone do not work. You can say a number, you can repeat it, but unless it connects to something you feel, it remains empty. And that is where we are going next. We are going to take something that feels large and gently show how small it actually is. Not by overwhelming you, but by placing it next to something larger, and then doing it again and again, until comparison itself begins to fail. But before that, one more thing. Notice how still everything feels. Right now, nothing is rushing. Nothing is moving around you in a way you can feel. Your body is still. Your environment is still. And that stillness creates a sense of control. A sense that everything is stable. But even here, that feeling is not entirely real. Because even at this scale, everything is already in motion. You just don't feel it. And that idea will return later. For now, we stay with what feels certain, with what feels real, with what feels measurable. Because this is the last place where scale behaves the way you expect it to. Everything beyond this point will begin to change.
A complete object. Now, let us move outward. Not far. Just enough to see something familiar from a different perspective. The Earth. You have always lived on it, walked across it, seen parts of it. But you have never seen it as a whole. Because from the ground, the Earth does not feel like an object. It feels like everything. The ground beneath you does not feel curved. It feels flat, endless, as if it continues in all directions. And your mind accepts that, because it has no reason to think otherwise. But slowly, as you rise, that changes. At first, nothing looks different. You move higher, and the horizon expands. The distance you can see grows. And then, something subtle happens. The horizon begins to curve. Not sharply, just slightly. Almost too small to notice. But once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Because now, the Earth is no longer a flat surface. It is a shape, a sphere, floating. Now keep moving. Higher. The continents become visible. Coastlines stretch across oceans. Clouds form patterns you have never seen before. Storm systems spiral slowly across vast distances.
And now, something else begins to happen. The scale starts to compress. What felt enormous before is now something you can see at once. A continent that would take weeks to cross fits inside your field of view. An ocean that seemed endless becomes a single surface. And suddenly, Earth no longer feels infinite. It feels contained, defined, and more importantly, finite. Now pause here, because this is the first real shift. What once felt like everything is now something you can look at, something you can hold in your vision. And when something can be held like that, it begins to feel smaller. Now, imagine this. If you could keep moving away, slowly, the Earth would continue to shrink, not because it is changing, but because your perspective is. This is the first rule of scale. Size is not just what something is, it is how it is seen. Now, let us make it more real. The diameter of Earth is about 12,700 kilometers, a number that feels large, but numbers still do not create intuition. So imagine this instead. If Earth were reduced to the size of a marble, you could hold it in your hand. Every mountain, every ocean, every city compressed into something small enough to carry. And that is not an exaggeration, it is a change of scale. Now think about something else. You are not standing on the whole Earth. You are standing on a surface, a boundary, a very thin layer of solid ground covering something much larger. Below you, thousands of kilometers of rock. Above you, something even thinner, the atmosphere. The air you are breathing feels vast. It fills the sky. It surrounds the planet. It feels deep. But in reality, it is extremely thin. If Earth were the size of a sphere 1 meter wide, the breathable atmosphere would be just a few millimeters thick, almost nothing. Everything you have ever known exists inside that thin layer. Every sound, every breath, every cloud, every storm, all contained within something barely measurable at planetary scale. Now imagine removing it. The air disappears, the sky goes dark, and what remains is silence. This is what surrounds Earth. Not more ground, not more atmosphere, but emptiness. And already the pattern begins to repeat. Structure surrounded by space.
Now, look again at the Earth from a distance. It is not connected to anything visible. It is not resting on anything. It is not supported in any way you can see. It is simply there, held in motion, orbiting. And yet, from where you stand, you feel none of it. This is the second rule of scale. Motion at large scales does not feel like motion. Earth is rotating. At the equator, you are moving at about 1,600 kilometers per hour. At the same time, the Earth is orbiting the Sun at over 100,000 kilometers per hour. And yet, you feel still, completely still, because your senses are not built to detect motion like this. They are built for survival, not for understanding the universe. Now hold that thought, because it will matter later. For now, focus on what has changed. Earth, which once felt infinite, is now something you can see at once, something small enough to disappear with distance. And this is only the beginning, because next we compare it to something larger, and when we do, even this planet will no longer feel big at all.
Every mountain, every ocean, every city compressed into something small enough to carry. And that is not an exaggeration, it is a change of scale. Now think about something else. You are not standing on the whole Earth. You are standing on a surface, a boundary, a very thin layer of solid ground covering something much larger. Below you, thousands of kilometers of rock. Above you, something even thinner, the atmosphere. The air you are breathing feels vast. It fills the sky. It surrounds the planet. It feels deep. But in reality, it is extremely thin. If Earth were the size of a sphere, 1 meter wide, the breathable atmosphere would be just a few millimeters thick, almost nothing. Everything you have ever known exists inside that thin layer. Every sound, every breath, every cloud, every storm, all contained within something barely measurable at planetary scale. Now imagine removing it. The air disappears, the sky goes dark, and what remains is silence. This is what surrounds Earth. Not more ground, not more atmosphere, but emptiness. And already the pattern begins to repeat. Structure surrounded by space. The Sun is not slightly larger than Earth. It is overwhelmingly larger. It dominates. It defines the space around it. And suddenly, something becomes clear. Earth is not central. It is not dominant. It is not even particularly large in its own system. It is one of many, orbiting something much greater. Now notice something else. Distance. The Earth is not close to the Sun. It only feels that way. The average distance is about 150 million kilometers. Light takes about 8 minutes to travel that distance. 8 minutes. Which means when you see sunlight, you are not seeing the sun as it is now. You are seeing it as it was 8 minutes ago. Even at this distance, time has already entered the picture. Now imagine shrinking everything. Place the sun at the center of a large city. Now reduce Earth to a tiny grain. Where would it be? Not nearby, not across the street, not even across the city. It would be tens of kilometers away. And in between, nothing. No planets, no objects, just empty space. This is where the second shock happens. The solar system is not defined by planets. It is defined by emptiness. The planets are rare interruptions, small points inside something mostly empty. Now return again to the sun. Look at its surface. It is not solid. It is not stable. It is constantly moving. Waves of plasma, eruptions, energy. Temperatures reaching thousands of degrees, at its core, millions. And yet, from Earth, you feel none of this. You feel warmth, light, day. This is another illusion. You experience only a fraction of what is actually happening, because distance filters reality. It reduces intensity. It turns something violent into something gentle. Now step back again. Place Earth next to the sun once more and look at the difference, not just in size, but in importance.
Without the sun, Earth would not exist as you know it. No light, no heat, no life. Everything you experience depends on something vastly larger than your world. And yet, even the sun is not large on a cosmic scale. It only feels large because it is the largest thing nearby. And that is the third rule of scale. Something can feel enormous only because nothing larger is close enough to compare it to. But that is about to change, because next we move beyond the sun into something much less intuitive. Not size, not mass, but distance. And when distance takes over, even the sun will begin to feel small. Now we move beyond the sun, not far, just far enough to see what surrounds it. Because up until now, you have seen size, but size alone is not what defines space. Distance does, and distance behaves differently. It does not sit still, it stretches, quietly, until comparison becomes difficult. Now look around the sun. At first, it does not look crowded. You might expect something else, something dense, planets close together, a system that feels connected. But that is not what you see. You see space, mostly space. Now something appears, a small object, moving. This is Mercury, the closest planet to the sun. From Earth, it is barely visible. From here, it still feels distant. Because even Mercury is not close to the sun. It only seems that way in diagrams. In reality, there is a vast distance between them. Now imagine this. If the sun were the size of a large sphere placed at the center of a city, Mercury would not be right next to it. It would be several meters away, already separated by empty space. Now move further. Another planet appears, Venus, larger than Mercury, brighter, but still isolated, still surrounded by emptiness. And then Earth, that small sphere you came from, now seen from outside. It does not stand out. It is not central. It is just one point among others.
Now pause, because something subtle is happening. You are seeing multiple planets, but they do not feel like a group. They feel separate, disconnected, because they are. The solar system is not a cluster. It is a set of objects spread across vast distances. Now continue outward. Mars appears, smaller, darker, and again, far away. So far, the travel between these planets is not simple. It is not like moving between cities. It takes months, even with modern spacecraft. Because distance is not just large, it is resistant. It slows everything down. Now imagine something else. If you were standing in space, somewhere between Earth and Mars, you would not see both planets clearly. You would not feel like you are between them. You would feel alone, because the space between planets is mostly empty. No markers, no reference points, just distance and darkness. This is where intuition fails again, because your mind expects connection. It expects continuity. But space does not provide that. It provides separation. Now return to the planets. Look at their arrangement. They orbit the sun, each one on its own path, each one separated by vast distances, and none of them are interacting directly. No collisions, no contact, just motion, independent. Now imagine speeding up time. The planets move, they orbit, but even then, they do not come close. They pass each other at great distances, always separated. This is the structure of the inner solar system, not a tight system, but a spread out one, defined by emptiness. Now notice something else. All of this, Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, exists in a very small region compared to what comes next. This entire section of the solar system is only the beginning, because beyond Mars, distance increases dramatically, and what felt far before will begin to feel close, because scale is relative, and we are about to change the reference again. Now take one last look at the inner planets, small, separated, floating in space around a star that already made Earth feel insignificant. And remember this feeling, because we are about to move outward again, and when we do, even this system will begin to feel small.
Now, we move further out, beyond Mars, and something changes almost immediately. Not because something appears, but because nothing does. For a while, there is nothing. No planets, no large objects, just space. This is the region between Mars and Jupiter. It is not completely empty. There are objects here, fragments, rocks, what we call the asteroid belt. But this name creates a false image. It sounds dense, crowded, like a field of obstacles. But that is not what it is. If you were there, you would not see rocks everywhere. You would not feel surrounded. You would see almost nothing, because even here, objects are separated by vast distances, kilometers, thousands of kilometers, sometimes more. This is something your mind resists because it expects a belt to be continuous. But space does not work like that. It suggests structure, but fills it with emptiness. Now keep moving outward. Again, there is nothing. No immediate structure, no nearby objects, just distance. And time begins to stretch. If you were traveling here, you would not feel progress. Days would pass, weeks, months, and nothing would change. No landmarks, no signs of arrival, just motion through emptiness. Then something appears. Saturn. Its rings are visible from afar, wide, thin, almost delicate. But even those rings are not solid. They are made of particles, ice, rock, each one separate, each one moving with space between them. Even here, structure is an illusion, because everything is still mostly empty. Now step back again. Look at Saturn in relation to Jupiter. They are not close. They are separated by enormous distance, far beyond anything you would consider near. Now continue, further outward, and again, there is nothing.
A long stretch of nothing. Long enough that your mind begins to drift because there is nothing to anchor it. No objects, no reference points, just distance. Then a faint blue sphere appears. Uranus. Cold, distant, almost silent. Its light is weak, its presence is subtle. And yet, it is still a planet, still massive. But compared to what surrounds it, it feels small. Now continue, even further, and once again, there is nothing. This is the pattern now. Object, then emptiness, then distance, then time, then another object. Finally, at the edge of what feels like a system, Neptune appears. Dark blue, cold, almost motionless. At this distance, the sun is no longer dominant. Its light is faint. Its warmth is gone. And the solar system no longer feels like a system. It feels like scattered points in an endless dark. Now stop, because something has changed. You are no longer moving through a structured space. You are moving through separation. Distance is no longer a gap between objects. It is the defining feature. And this is where the next shift happens. Because beyond Neptune, there is no clear boundary, no edge, no line that says, this is the end. Instead, the solar system fades, slowly, into something much larger, something that is not defined by planets at all, but by distance itself. And when we enter that, even this vast system will begin to feel small. Now we move beyond the solar system. But something changes here. Not just what you see, but how you measure it. Up until now, distance was something you could imagine. Kilometers, movement, travel. Even if it felt large, it still felt crossable. But here, that idea begins to break. Because the distances ahead are no longer meaningful in kilometers. The numbers become too large, too distant from experience. So instead, we change the way we measure. We stop asking, how far is it? And we begin asking, how long would light take to get there? Light, the fastest thing we know. Nothing travels faster. It moves at about 300,000 kilometers per second. In 1 second, light can circle the Earth more than 7 times. And still, even at that speed, distance begins to win. Because now we look outward, beyond the sun, beyond Neptune, into the nearest stars. And what we find is not closeness, but separation. The nearest star to our solar system is over 4 light years away. 4 years for light. Which means if you could travel at the fastest speed possible, you would still need over 4 years just to reach the closest star. Now pause, because this is the moment where scale begins to resist understanding. Until now, distance meant effort, but here, even perfect speed is not enough. Now imagine slowing down. Imagine traveling at the speed of a spacecraft, something humans have actually built. It would not take 4 years. It would take tens of thousands of years, longer than recorded history,
longer than entire civilizations, just to reach the nearest star. And that star is not special. It is not unique. It is just one among many. Now let that settle, because something has changed. Distance is no longer something you move through. It is something you endure. Time has replaced space, and this changes everything. Because when distance becomes time, scale becomes something else, something heavier, something slower, something that cannot be rushed.
Now imagine this. You leave the solar system. You travel outward, not quickly, but continuously. Years pass, then decades, then centuries, and still, you have not reached another star. There are no landmarks, no transitions, just time and distance. This is the true nature of interstellar space. Not objects, but emptiness stretched across time. Now consider something else. When you look at a star, you are not seeing it as it is. You are seeing it as it was. Because light takes time to travel. If a star is 4 light years away, you are seeing it as it existed 4 years ago. If something happens to it now, you will not know for years. At larger distances, this delay becomes extreme. Hundreds of years, thousands, millions. So when you look at the universe, you are not seeing the present. You are seeing the past. Layers of it, stacked across distance. Now let that idea rest, because it changes something quietly. The universe is not just large, it is delayed. Everything you see is already behind, already traveled, already gone, and yet still visible. Now imagine looking outward again. Beyond the nearest stars, there are more. Not a few, not dozens, but hundreds of billions. All separated by distances measured in years of light. Each one a point, each one isolated. And between them, almost nothing. This is where the next shift begins. Because now we are ready to see something larger. Not individual stars, but the structure that contains them. And when that appears, even these vast distances will begin to feel small. Now, we begin to see something larger. Not a star, not a planet, but a structure. At first, it does not look like one. It appears faint, a soft band of light stretching across darkness. You have seen it before. From Earth, it looks like a distant glow, subtle, almost quiet. But that light is not a cloud. It is not dust. It is stars, more than your mind was built to hold. Hundreds of billions of them, each one like the sun, each one with space around it, each one separated by distance measured in years. This is the Milky Way, your galaxy, the structure that contains your sun, your planets, your origin. And now you begin to see it from the outside. At first, it feels large, a spiral, arms of light curving outward, a dense center glowing more brightly. But as you move further,
something familiar happens. The structure begins to shrink. Not because it changes, but because you move. The spiral becomes flatter. The details fade. The brightness softens. And slowly, the entire galaxy becomes something you can hold in your vision. Now pause, because this is the second major break. Everything you have seen so far, every star, every possible system, fits inside this one structure, and that structure can shrink to a point. Now consider its size. From one end of the Milky Way to the other is about 100,000 light years, which means if light began at one edge and traveled continuously, it would take 100,000 years to reach the other side. Not a spacecraft, light, the fastest thing possible. Now let that settle, because at this scale, numbers are no longer helpful. So imagine something else. Imagine leaving one star, moving outward. Years pass, decades, centuries, and still you have not reached another. Because even inside a galaxy, stars are far apart, much farther than you expect. If our sun were placed inside a large room, the nearest star would not be across the room. It would be hundreds of kilometers away. That is the spacing. That is the scale. So even inside this vast structure, emptiness remains dominant. This is the pattern again. Structure surrounded by space.
Now imagine drifting through the galaxy. Not quickly, but slowly. Passing one star, then traveling for years before reaching another. No noise, no movement you can feel. Just distance in every direction. There is no center you can easily find. No edge you can clearly approach. Just more stars, more distance, more time. And eventually, something else begins to happen. You lose orientation because there is no up, no down, no reference, just space in every direction. And this is where scale becomes something else. Not something you calculate, but something you experience as disorientation, as openness, as something too large to organize in your mind. Now step further back. The Milky Way begins to fade. The spiral dissolves. The brightness disappears. And slowly, it becomes just another point of light. No different from the others. And this is the moment. Because now, your galaxy, the structure that once contained everything, is no longer special. It is one among many. And that realization does not arrive suddenly. It arrives quietly, without force, without urgency. But once it arrives, it stays. Because next, we move beyond galaxies. And when we do, even this vast structure will begin to feel small. Now, we move beyond the Milky Way. Not quickly, just enough to see what surrounds it. At first, there is nothing. Darkness. Because distance here is immense. Then, a faint shape appears. Soft, diffuse. Another galaxy. This is Andromeda, the nearest large galaxy to the Milky Way. It is about 2.5 million light years away, which means the light you see from it began its journey before humans existed, before cities, before history, and it is only arriving now. Now pause, because something has changed again. You are no longer seeing distance, you are seeing time. Every galaxy you observe is a memory, a delayed image of something that may have already changed. Now imagine traveling there. Even at the speed of light, it would take 2.5 million years, not generations, not civilizations, entire eras of existence just to arrive. And when you do, it will not be the same place, because galaxies move, slowly but continuously, and Andromeda is moving toward us at about 110 kilometers per second, which sounds fast, but at this scale, it is still slow, because the distance between galaxies is so vast that even motion takes time to matter. Now, step further back. The Milky Way and Andromeda are not alone. They are part of something larger, the local group. A small collection of galaxies, dozens of them, some large, most small, each one separated by enormous distances, each one containing billions of stars. Now continue outward. The local group begins to shrink. It becomes a cluster, one among many. And now you begin to see structure again. Not random points, but patterns. Galaxies gathering into clusters, clusters forming larger systems, and those systems connecting through vast filaments of matter. This is the Cosmic Web, a structure so large it cannot be seen all at once, only understood. It stretches across space like a network, thin strands connecting dense regions, and between those strands, voids, enormous regions where almost nothing exists. These voids are not small, they are not gaps, they are vast, so large that entire galaxies could travel through them for millions of years without encountering anything. Now, let that settle, because emptiness has reached a new level, not just between planets, not just between stars, but between galaxies, between clusters, between entire structures. At this scale, emptiness dominates everything.
Now step back again. The cosmic web begins to fade. The clusters blur. The galaxies lose definition, and everything becomes a distribution. Not objects, but density. Patterns of matter spread across unimaginable space. And now, something else appears. Not visible, not directly, but essential. Dark matter. It does not emit light. It does not reflect. It does not behave like anything you experience daily, and yet it is everywhere. It forms the structure that galaxies follow. It shapes the cosmic web. It holds clusters together. Without it, galaxies would not form the way they do. Clusters would drift apart. Structure would collapse. Now consider this. Everything you have seen so far, every star, every planet, every galaxy, all of it fits inside something even bigger, a boundary, not of space itself, but of what we can observe. And beyond that, the universe continues, without limit, without edge, without anything to define its end. And this is where scale completely dissolves, because there is no longer anything to compare it to, no larger reference, no higher level, only continuation. And you are somewhere inside it, not at the center, not at the edge, just somewhere.
Now, we move one step further, not into something larger, but into something more subtle. A limit. Not a wall, not an edge, but a boundary of what can be seen. Everything you have just moved through, planets, stars, galaxies, clusters, all of it exists within this boundary. This is called the observable universe. Now listen carefully. This does not mean it is everything that exists. It only means it is everything we are able to see, because light takes time to travel. And the universe has not existed forever. It has a beginning, about 13.8 billion years ago, which means light has had a limited amount of time to reach us. So, in theory, you might expect to see 13.8 billion light years away. But that is not what we observe, because something else is happening. Space itself is expanding. While light travels, the distance it must cross is increasing, stretching, quietly, continuously. So the boundary of what we can see is not 13.8 billion light years away. It is much farther, about 93 billion light years across. Now pause, because this is where numbers stop helping again. 93 billion light years. Even when you say it, it does not translate into anything you can feel. So instead, shift your attention. Look at the sky, any direction. It does not matter where. Every point contains galaxies. Not one, not a few, thousands, millions, each one containing billions of stars. And all of it fits inside what we can observe, just the visible portion. Now consider something else. The observable universe is not centered on Earth. It appears centered on you, wherever you are. If you were somewhere else, the observable universe would shift with you, which means there is no special location, no center, only perspective. Now let that settle, because it leads to something quiet but profound. There are regions of space that exist right now that you will never see. Not because they are hidden, not because they are small, but because their light will never reach you, ever. Because space between you and those regions is expanding too fast, faster than light can cross it. So even if light is already on its way, it will never arrive. Now pause again, because this changes something fundamental. The universe is not just large, it is partially unreachable, not in practice, but in principle. There are parts of reality that are forever beyond observation. Now imagine that. Not just distant, not just difficult to reach, but impossible to ever see. And yet, they exist at the same time as everything you observe. Now let everything come together. You have moved from Earth to the solar system, to the galaxy, to clusters, to the cosmic web, and now to the limit of observation itself. And at each step, something changed. Size increased, distance expanded, emptiness dominated, and now visibility itself has limits. Now step back one final time. Everything you have seen, every galaxy, every structure, every point of light exists inside a region that is already beyond comprehension. And beyond that region, there may be more, much more.
possibly infinitely more, but it is not visible, not now, and perhaps never. And that is where scale ends. Not with an object, not with a size, but with a limit of what can be known through sight. And beyond that, continuation.
And now, there is nothing left to expand. No more distance to measure. No more scale to compare. You have already moved from the smallest reference points to the largest structures we know, from something you could hold to something that cannot be held at all. And now, you do not need to go any further, because at this point, understanding does not come from adding more information. It comes from letting things settle, letting everything you have just moved through become quiet, not forgotten, just softened. Because the universe does not need to be held in your mind all at once. It is too large for that. And that is not a limitation. It is part of its nature. Now notice something simple. Right now, in this moment, you are not experiencing the universe as a whole. You are not feeling galaxies. You are not feeling expansion. You are not aware of dark matter or distant clusters or the motion of space itself. You are aware of something smaller, closer. Your breathing, the stillness around you, the quiet rhythm of your body. And that contrast between what exists and what is felt is where calm begins. Because nothing about the scale of the universe demands anything from you. It does not require effort. It does not require attention. It continues, whether you think about it or not. Stars are forming right now. Somewhere in a distant galaxy, gas is collapsing, heat is building, light is beginning. And at the same time, somewhere else, a star is fading. Its fuel is running out. Its light is dimming. And eventually, it will disappear. All of this is happening quietly, without urgency, without interruption. And none of it requires you to respond. None of it requires you to act.
The universe is not waiting. It is not expecting anything. It simply continues. And because of that, you are allowed to be still, completely still. Now return to one idea: scale. At the beginning, it felt like something you could measure, something you could understand with numbers. But now it has changed. It is no longer a calculation, it is a feeling, a quiet awareness that everything is larger than you first imagined. And that awareness does not need to be intense. It can be gentle. Because large does not have to mean overwhelming. It can simply mean open, spacious, unending in a calm way. Now let that feeling remain, not as a thought, not as something you try to hold on to, just as a sense that the universe continues far beyond anything you can see. And that is okay, because you do not need to see all of it. You do not need to reach it. You are already within it, and that is enough. Now let your focus narrow, slowly, from the largest structures back towards something simple, from galaxies to stars, to the space between them, to the space around you, and finally, to your breath. In, out, slow, steady. Nothing is rushing. The universe is not in a hurry. It has never been in a hurry. Stars take millions of years to form. Galaxies take billions of years to change. Even light takes time to travel. Everything unfolds slowly, and you are allowed to match that pace. You are allowed to slow down. There is nothing you need to complete, nothing you need to solve, nothing you need to figure out before resting. The universe will continue without your attention,
It always has, and it always will. So now you can let go. Let go of the scale. Let go of the distances. Let go of the numbers. Let everything you heard become quiet. Not gone, just distant, like stars in the night sky. Still there, but no longer demanding focus. And as that happens, your mind becomes lighter, more still, more quiet, because there is nothing left to hold. Only this moment, only this breath, only this calm. And within that calm, you can rest completely. No movement required, no effort needed, just stillness.
The universe is not waiting. It is not expecting anything. It simply continues. And because of that, you are allowed to be still, completely still. Now return to one idea: scale. At the beginning, it felt like something you could measure, something you could understand with numbers. But now, it has changed. It is no longer a calculation. It is a feeling, a quiet awareness that everything is larger than you first imagined. And that awareness does not need to be intense. It can be gentle. Because large does not have to mean overwhelming. It can simply mean open, spacious, unending, in a calm way. Now let that feeling remain, not as a thought, not as something you try to hold on to, just as a sense that the universe continues far beyond anything you can see. And that is okay, because you do not need to see all of it. You do not need to reach it. You are already within it, and that is enough. Now let your focus narrow, slowly, from the largest structures back towards something simple, from galaxies to stars, to the space between them, to the space around you, and finally, to your breath. In, out, slow, steady. Nothing is rushing. The universe is not in a hurry. It has never been in a hurry. Stars take millions of years to form. Galaxies take billions of years to change. Even light takes time to travel. Everything unfolds slowly, and you are allowed to match that pace. You are allowed to slow down. There is nothing you need to complete, nothing you need to solve, nothing you need to figure out before resting. The universe will continue without your attention. It always has, and it always will. So now, you can let go. Let go of the scale. Let go of the distances. Let go of the numbers. Let everything you heard become quiet. Not gone, just distant, like stars in the night sky. Still there, but no longer demanding focus. And as that happens, your mind becomes lighter, more still, more quiet, because there is nothing left to hold. Only this moment, only this breath, only this calm. And within that calm, you can rest completely. No movement required, no effort needed, just stillness. Inside something vast that continues without end. Tonight, we are not going to look at something bright. Not a star, not a planet, not even a galaxy. Instead, we are going to focus on something you have never seen, and yet, it may be the reason galaxies exist at all. Right now, as you look at the night sky, it feels like the universe is made of light, stars, glowing gas, distant galaxies. But that impression is incomplete, because most of what holds those structures together cannot be seen. It does not shine, it does not reflect, it does not leave a visible trace. And yet, without it, the Milky Way would not hold its shape. Galaxies would not form the way they do. Clusters would not remain bound. The large-scale structure of the universe would look entirely different. Something invisible is shaping everything. Tonight, we are going to trace it, not by looking at light, but by following motion, gravity, and structure, until the outline of something hidden begins to emerge. There is no rush. Just listen and let the visible universe soften for a moment as we move into a part of reality that has always been there but has never been directly seen. The story did not begin with mystery. It began with a problem, a quiet one at first, hidden in measurements, buried in the motion of stars. When astronomers began tracking how stars move within galaxies, the expectations seemed simple. Gravity should behave the same way it does everywhere else. Objects closer to the center should move faster. Objects farther away should slow down. That is how motion works when most of the mass is concentrated in one place. And for a long time, no one had a reason to doubt it. But when the data became precise enough, something didn't match. The outer stars were not slowing down. They were moving just as fast as the stars closer to the center, sometimes even faster than the visible mass of the galaxy could allow. If those measurements were correct, those galaxies should not have remained stable. They should have begun to drift apart, slowly unraveling over time. But they didn't. They remained intact, rotating quietly, as if something unseen was holding them together. The story did not begin with mystery. It began with a problem, a quiet one at first, hidden in measurements, buried in the motion of stars. When astronomers began tracking how stars move within galaxies, the expectations seemed simple. Gravity should behave the same way it does everywhere else. Objects closer to the center should move faster. Objects farther away should slow down. That is how motion works when most of the mass is concentrated in one place. And for a long time, no one had a reason to doubt it. But when the data became precise enough, something didn't match. The outer stars were not slowing down. They were moving just as fast as the stars closer to the center, sometimes even faster than the visible mass of the galaxy could allow. If those measurements were correct, those galaxies should not have remained stable. They should have begun to drift apart, slowly unraveling over time. But they didn't. They remained intact, rotating quietly, as if something unseen was holding them together. One of the astronomers who helped make this impossible to ignore was Vera Rubin. By the 1970s, Rubin and her collaborators were studying the rotation of spiral galaxies with increasing precision. Not just one or two exceptional systems, but many. The pattern was remarkably consistent. Instead of dropping with distance from the center, the rotation curves stayed flat. The outer regions of galaxies behaved as if they were still deep inside a strong gravitational field. That meant mass was continuing outward, far beyond the bright disk of stars. Not in a narrow band, not in isolated clumps, but in a broad, extended distribution, a halo. This was a profound shift in how galaxies were imagined. Before, it was easy to think of a galaxy as mostly what you could see: a shining disk, a bulge of stars, clouds of gas, perhaps some faint outer structure. But the motion suggested something much larger. The visible galaxy was only the illuminated center of a more massive system. The stars marked the brightest part, not the whole thing. Around every major galaxy, there seemed to be an extended envelope of unseen mass, diffuse, enormous, dominant. Today, that idea is so familiar that it can sound almost ordinary, but it is not ordinary at all. It means that when you look at a galaxy, you are not seeing most of it. You are seeing the luminous component nested within a much larger invisible halo. The stars are not freely drifting in empty space. They are moving through a gravitational landscape largely shaped by something else. That hidden component is now thought to account for about 85% of all matter in the universe. Not 85% of everything, because the universe also contains dark energy, but of all matter, of the material that contributes mass and gravity in the ordinary sense. Only a small fraction is the familiar atomic matter that makes stars, planets, gas clouds, and living things. Everything human beings have ever touched, every stone, ocean, atmosphere, tree, mountain, animal, and world, belongs to the minority component. The dominant matter of the cosmos is something else. That alone is enough to change the emotional scale of the subject. We are not discussing a small correction to a known picture. We are discussing the possibility that most matter in the universe exists in a form completely unlike the matter we are made of. But if this matter cannot be seen, how do we know it is really there? The answer lies in what mass does. Mass shapes gravity, and gravity shapes motion. It also bends light. That means even something invisible can reveal itself indirectly if its gravitational influence is strong enough. This is one of the most important ideas in modern astronomy. You do not always have to see something directly to map its presence. You can infer it from how it affects everything around it. That inference is not vague, it is not mystical, it is measurable.
Stars move through gravitational fields. Gas clouds orbit within them. Galaxies cluster according to them. And light, even though it has no mass, follows the curvature of space-time created by mass. So if enough invisible matter exists in a region, its presence can be traced by motion and distortion. Astronomers began to assemble these traces from many angles. They studied the speeds of stars in galaxies. They measured how galaxies move inside clusters. They examined how hot gas behaves in large systems. They looked at how distant galaxies appear stretched or duplicated when light passes through massive foreground objects. Each method had different uncertainties. Each examined a different scale. And still, the same pattern emerged. There was more gravity than visible matter could account for. This is what made the dark matter idea so durable. It did not depend on a single experiment. It appeared across scales, within galaxies, within galaxy clusters, across the large-scale structure of the universe, even in the oldest light we can observe from the early cosmos. A single odd result can be ignored. A repeated discrepancy across many methods cannot. The evidence accumulated not as a sudden revelation, but as a convergence.
one clue after another, one measurement after another, one system after another. Together, they outlined something never seen directly, a hidden architecture, not made of light, but of influence. If you imagine traveling outward from the center of a galaxy, the visible scene would gradually change. You would pass the dense central bulge where stars are crowded together, then the graceful spiral arms, then the outer disk where stars become fewer and the darkness between them grows wider. Eventually, the visible galaxy would seem close to ending, but gravitationally it would not be ending at all. You would still be inside the halo. This halo is not like a shell or a surface. It has no visible boundary, no sharp wall, no familiar texture. It is a vast region where invisible matter dominates. The halo extends far beyond the stars, far beyond the glowing gas, far beyond what most images of a galaxy suggest. And this matters because the halo governs motion. Stars in the outer regions move as though they are embedded in a larger mass distribution than the luminous galaxy reveals. Without that hidden mass, their speeds would be too high. Over long timescales, the outer structure would not remain stable in the same way. The galaxy would be different, smaller, less bound, less persistent. Dark matter halos also shape how galaxies form in the first place. They are not merely support structures added after the fact. They are part of the conditions that allowed galaxies to emerge. Ordinary matter can cool, collapse, fragment, and form stars. But before it does that efficiently, it must gather. Dark matter provides the gravitational wells into which visible matter falls. In that sense, stars form inside a pre-existing framework. A galaxy is not simply a luminous object floating by itself. It is the visible expression of matter settling into an invisible gravitational scaffold. This changes the meaning of what we see when we look out at the night sky. A galaxy is not just an island of light. It is a bright concentration within a much larger dark structure. The visible parts are real, but they are incomplete. And because every large galaxy appears to sit inside such a halo, dark matter is not a local oddity. It is woven through the universe at every major scale where structure exists. The evidence becomes even more dramatic when we leave individual galaxies behind and look at galaxy clusters. A galaxy cluster is one of the largest gravitationally bound structures in the universe. It can contain hundreds or even thousands of galaxies, enormous clouds of hot gas, and a vast reservoir of unseen mass. Clusters are powerful because they allow several kinds of matter to be studied together. The visible galaxies are visible in starlight. The hot gas glows in X-rays, and the total mass can be inferred from gravitational effects. When astronomers compare these components, the mismatch becomes impossible to overlook. The visible galaxies do not provide enough mass. The hot gas adds more, but still not enough. The total gravitational pull remains much stronger than all visible components together can explain. Then there are collisions. When galaxy clusters collide, they create one of the clearest natural experiments available in cosmology. The galaxies within each cluster are relatively sparse, so they can pass through one another without frequent direct collisions. But the hot gas behaves differently. Gas interacts electromagnetically. It collides, it compresses, it slows down, it heats up. So during a cluster collision, the visible gas can be dragged and displaced. If all the mass were tied to that ordinary matter, the gravitational center should stay with the gas. But in some famous systems, that is not what happens. Gravitational lensing maps show that most of the mass continues forward with the galaxies, not with the slowed gas. This means the dominant mass component does not behave like ordinary matter. It does not collide strongly. It does not stick. It passes through with relatively little resistance. That observation is extraordinarily important because it tells us dark matter, if it is matter, is not just invisible, it is dynamically different. It does not participate in the electromagnetic interactions that govern ordinary gas, plasma, chemistry, and light. It responds primarily to gravity. That is a much more specific statement than simply saying we cannot see it. It narrows the possibilities. Whatever dark matter is, it is not just faint dust, not hidden stars, not ordinary gas we somehow overlooked. Those possibilities were considered long ago. They do not fit the evidence. The dominant mass of the universe must be something fundamentally unlike the luminous matter we know best. Another path to dark matter comes through light itself. At first, that sounds paradoxical. How can light reveal something that does not interact with light? The answer is gravity. According to general relativity, mass curves space-time. Light follows that curvature. So when light from a distant galaxy passes near a massive object on its way to us, its path bends. This is gravitational lensing. Sometimes the effect is subtle. A distant galaxy appears slightly stretched or sheared. Its shape is gently distorted. No single image looks dramatic, but across many galaxies, the pattern becomes statistically clear. This is called weak lensing. In other cases, the effect is much stronger. A single background galaxy may appear duplicated into arcs or rings around a foreground mass. Its image is bent into luminous curves. This is strong lensing. Both forms are useful. They allow astronomers to map mass directly from its gravitational effect without needing that mass to emit light. That is what makes lensing so powerful for dark matter studies. A region of space can look almost empty in ordinary images and still produce measurable distortions in the light behind it. From those distortions, astronomers can reconstruct where mass must be located. Again and again, the maps show more mass than visible matter alone can explain. Not just a little more, a great deal more. Lensing also reveals how dark matter is distributed on large scales. It appears in halos around galaxies, in extended structures around clusters, and in the great filaments that connect cosmic structures together. In this way, light becomes a kind of tracer for the invisible. Not because dark matter shines, but because its gravity silently reshapes the paths that light takes through the universe. You never see dark matter itself in these observations. What you see is the visible universe warped around it. That is a subtle difference, but an important one. Dark matter remains hidden, yet its fingerprints are everywhere. If we continue outward, past galaxies and clusters, we arrive at one of the most striking images in modern cosmology, the cosmic web. On the largest scales, galaxies are not scattered randomly through the universe. They form a pattern. Long filaments stretch across immense distances. Clusters gather at intersections. Between them lie vast, emptier regions called voids. This pattern is not decorative, it is physical structure, and it encodes the history of how matter gathered over cosmic time. When scientists simulate the universe from early conditions shortly after the Big Bang, the outcome depends strongly on what kinds of matter are included.
If only ordinary matter is used, structure forms too slowly. The resulting universe does not resemble what we observe well enough. But when dark matter is included, something remarkable happens. The simulations generate filaments, clusters, and voids that look much more like the real large-scale cosmos. Dark matter acts as the first major scaffold. Because it does not interact with radiation in the same way ordinary matter does, it can begin clumping earlier. Its gravity amplifies tiny initial density differences. Over time, those variations grow. Filaments emerge, nodes become clusters, voids expand where matter is sparse. Later, ordinary matter falls into these dark structures. Gas collects in the gravitational wells. It cools, fragments, forms stars, then galaxies. In this picture, visible structure grows inside invisible structure. The first stars do not create the framework, they illuminate it. That idea changes how deep space images can be understood. When we look at galaxies scattered across the sky, we are not simply seeing isolated objects. We are seeing bright nodes in a larger pattern. The luminous universe outlines the hidden one. Each galaxy marks a local concentration. Each cluster marks a deeper well. Each filament traces a route where matter has gathered over billions of years. And between them, the voids matter too. Voids are not just empty places, they help define the shape of the web. They show where matter did not collect strongly. They reveal the contrast that gives large-scale structure its form. So even where light is scarce, dark matter still shapes the geometry of the cosmos. It determines not only where galaxies are, but where they are not.
To understand why dark matter became so important in cosmology, we have to go back even farther, to the early universe. In the beginning, the universe was hot, dense, and nearly uniform. Nearly, but not perfectly. Tiny fluctuations in density existed. Small regions were just slightly denser than others. Those tiny differences mattered enormously. Over time, gravity can amplify density differences. Denser regions pull in more matter, becoming denser still. But ordinary matter in the early universe was coupled strongly to radiation. Light and matter were interacting intensely. That interaction made it difficult for ordinary matter to begin collapsing efficiently right away. Dark matter, if it exists and does not couple to radiation in the same way, would behave differently. It could begin forming gravitational structures earlier. That early advantage changes everything. Dark matter would start building wells in the cosmic landscape before atoms had fully decoupled from radiation. Later, once the universe cooled enough, ordinary matter could fall into those pre-existing wells. This helps explain how galaxies formed early enough to match observations. Without such a hidden component, it becomes harder to grow structure quickly enough from the small fluctuations seen in the early universe. This is one reason the dark matter idea is not only about modern galaxies, it is tied to cosmic history from the beginning. Measurements of the cosmic microwave background, the faint afterglow of the early universe, also support a cosmos in which ordinary matter is not enough by itself. The patterns of temperature fluctuations in that ancient light contain information about the universe's composition. Those patterns point toward a universe where most matter is non-luminous. So, dark matter is not inferred only from late-time galaxies or local motion.
It appears in the universe's oldest large-scale evidence as well. This breadth matters. Any alternative explanation must account not just for one anomaly, but for an entire network of observations: galactic rotation, cluster dynamics, gravitational lensing, large-scale structure, and the early universe background itself. That is why dark matter remains so compelling. It does not solve a single puzzle. It helps hold together many different pieces of the same cosmic picture. Naturally, once the evidence became strong enough, the next question followed immediately. What is it? And here, the story becomes stranger. Because dark matter is not just invisible in practice, it may be fundamentally difficult to interact with. One family of ideas proposed that dark matter is made of new particles, particles not included in the familiar set of protons, neutrons, electrons, and the ordinary atomic matter they compose. Among the most discussed candidates for many years were WIMPs, weakly interacting massive particles. The name captures the concept well. Massive, meaning they carry substantial mass compared with very light particles. Weakly interacting, meaning they rarely interact with ordinary matter except through gravity and perhaps the weak nuclear force. If the universe were filled with such particles, they could pass through ordinary matter almost unnoticed. Trillions might move through your body every second without leaving a sensation or obvious trace. That sounds extraordinary, but it fits the basic requirement. Dark matter must be massive enough to shape gravity. It must interact weakly enough to remain unseen in ordinary electromagnetic observations.
Another candidate is the axion. Axions are imagined as extremely light particles with properties very different from WIMPs. Rather than behaving like heavy, slow individual particles in the intuitive sense, they may act more like a subtle field spread through space. Under special conditions, axions might convert into photons in the presence of strong magnetic fields. This possibility has inspired highly specialized experiments. Then there are sterile neutrinos and other more exotic candidates, particles that extend beyond the standard model of particle physics in different ways. Each candidate has its own predicted mass range, interaction pattern, cosmological behavior, and experimental signatures. What they share is a common role. They offer a form of matter that could be gravitationally significant while remaining largely hidden from light. For a time, WIMPs were among the most favored possibilities, in part because they fit elegantly into some broader theoretical ideas in particle physics. But despite decades of searching, no confirmed direct detection has emerged. That does not mean dark matter is false. It means the space of possibilities is shifting. Perhaps the particles are lighter than expected, perhaps heavier. Perhaps they interact even more weakly than early models assumed. Perhaps they require detection methods unlike the ones first designed for them. The absence of direct detection does not erase the gravitational evidence. It sharpens the mystery of what kind of thing could produce it. This is why some of the most sensitive dark matter experiments are not in space, but underground. That choice is deliberate. If you are searching for an extremely rare interaction between an invisible particle and ordinary matter, then the surface of Earth is a noisy place. Cosmic rays strike the atmosphere. Radiation from space and from the environment creates a constant background of events.
To reduce that noise, scientists build detectors deep beneath mountains or rock. The overlying Earth acts as a shield. In those quiet chambers, instruments wait for the faintest possible signal. A dark matter particle passing through the detector might, in principle, collide with an atomic nucleus or an electron. That collision could produce a tiny flash of light, a small electrical signal, or a minute vibration in the detector material. The challenge is that such events, if they happen at all, are exceedingly rare, and many ordinary processes can mimic them. So the experiments must be exquisitely careful. They use ultra-pure materials, cryogenic temperatures, layers of shielding, redundant sensors, statistical analysis designed to separate possible signal from background. The result is one of the quietest forms of listening in science, and so far, that listening has not yielded a universally accepted direct detection. Year after year, the instruments have become more sensitive, limits have improved, possible parameter ranges have narrowed, some candidate models have become less plausible, but the definitive event, the unmistakable interaction that would reveal dark matter in the laboratory, has not arrived. That silence is scientifically valuable. A null result is still information. It tells us what dark matter is probably not, or at least what it is less likely to be under certain assumptions. But emotionally, it deepens the tension, because the universe appears full of dark matter in its gravitational behavior, and yet the laboratory remains quiet. This creates one of the central asymmetries of the field. Astronomy says something is there. Particle experiments say it is not easy to catch. Both statements may be true at the same time. That has led some scientists to consider another possibility. What if the missing mass is not missing mass at all? What if the problem lies in our understanding of gravity? This family of ideas does not deny the observations. It tries to reinterpret them.
If gravity behaves differently on very large scales or very low accelerations, then perhaps galaxies rotate the way they do without needing large amounts of unseen matter. This is an attractive thought in one sense. It replaces invisible matter with modified laws, and laws, unlike hidden particles, can sometimes feel cleaner. But the universe is not obligated to be emotionally satisfying. The question is not which explanation feels simpler. It is which one explains the full range of evidence best. Modified gravity ideas can account for some galactic scale behaviors rather well in certain cases, but the challenge grows when the evidence broadens. Cluster collisions, gravitational lensing maps, early universe structure formation, and the cosmic microwave background all place heavy demands on any alternative model. It is difficult for a modified gravity theory to explain all of these as successfully and consistently as dark matter currently does. That is why, despite continued interest in alternatives, dark matter remains the leading framework. Not because it is complete, not because it is directly detected, but because competing explanations have struggled to replace it across all scales at once. This is important to understand. Dark matter is not accepted because scientists enjoy mysterious, invisible ingredients. It is accepted because the universe repeatedly behaves as though such an ingredient exists. If a better idea comes along, one that explains galaxies, clusters, lensing, cosmic structure, and early universe observations more completely, science will follow the evidence there. But so far, the evidence keeps returning to the same broad conclusion.
There is more matter than we can see. Even within the dark matter framework, important questions remain. One of them is whether dark matter interacts with itself. For a long time, the simplest models treated dark matter as essentially collisionless. It responds to gravity and mostly nothing else. That assumption works surprisingly well on large scales, but on smaller scales, especially within the central regions of some galaxies, the details are not always perfect. Simulations based on simple cold dark matter can predict dense central concentrations in halos. Yet some observations, especially of smaller galaxies, suggest shallower cores than expected. This does not necessarily mean the main framework is wrong. Ordinary matter complicates the picture. Stars form, supernovae explode, gas flows in and out, energy is injected into galactic environments. All of these processes can reshape the visible structure of a galaxy and may also alter the distribution of dark matter indirectly over time. So when a mismatch appears, there are at least two broad possibilities. Either dark matter itself has additional properties, or ordinary baryonic processes have modified the halo enough to create the observed difference. To sort that out, astronomers compare many galaxies across many environments. Large galaxies, small galaxies, quiet galaxies, star-forming galaxies, galaxies in dense regions, galaxies in relative isolation. They look for patterns that remain stable across these differences. If the same discrepancy appears under many conditions, it may point to a property of dark matter itself. If it varies systematically with star formation history or gas dynamics, then ordinary matter may be doing more of the sculpting. This is a subtle frontier. It is no longer just about whether dark matter exists. It is about what kind of dark matter could produce the structures we observe most precisely. Perhaps it is almost perfectly collisionless. Perhaps it has weak self-interactions that matter only over vast timescales. Perhaps it forms small-scale structures differently from the simplest models. These are not dramatic departures from the central idea. They are refinements. But refinements matter, because eventually understanding may come not from one spectacular detection, but from many small constraints, narrowing the possibilities until only a few remain.
As the field has matured, one thing has become increasingly clear. Dark matter is best understood as a problem of constraints. We do not begin with a known object and study its details. We begin with effects and ask what kind of thing could cause them. That means every observation places a boundary around the answer. It must have mass. It must be largely non-luminous. It must not interact strongly with electromagnetic radiation. It must help structure form early. It must be distributed in halos and larger filaments. It must survive from the early universe until now. It must behave consistently across immense scales. These requirements are powerful. They do not tell us exactly what dark matter is, but they sharply limit what it can be. This is why the search has continued for so long without collapsing into chaos. Dark matter is mysterious, but it is not unconstrained. The universe has already told us a great deal about its behavior. We know it is not ordinary matter in disguise. We know it is not just an observational error. We know it cannot be a tiny local effect. We know it shapes cosmic structure broadly and persistently. What we lack is not evidence of influence.
What we lack is identity, and identity is harder. In most of science, identity comes from direct interaction. You shine light on something, you scatter particles off it, you measure its spectrum, you isolate it, you observe how it responds. Dark matter resists that sequence. Its most obvious behavior is gravitational, and gravity is a broad collective effect. It tells us where mass is. It tells us how much there must be, but it does not easily reveal microscopic composition. That is why dark matter can feel like a shadow cast by the structure of space-time itself, not because it is unreal, but because we encounter it through consequences rather than contact. There is something philosophically unusual about that. Human beings are used to trusting the visible. Even in science, many foundational discoveries eventually become things we can isolate, measure, manipulate, or image in some direct way. Dark matter has not yet crossed that threshold. It has become one of the most important components of modern cosmology, without ever appearing in a detector in a universally agreed direct form. That makes it feel unfinished, and in a sense, it is unfinished. We can map where it must be. We can estimate how much of it exists. We can model how it shaped structure across cosmic history. But when we ask what it is made of, the answer falls silent. This silence can be misleading if we are not careful. It is easy to imagine that because we do not know what dark matter is, we know almost nothing about it. In fact, the opposite is true. We know a great deal about how it behaves on large scales. We know it is stable over billions of years. We know it clusters gravitationally. We know it dominates matter halos. We know it does not radiate or absorb light in any ordinary way. We know it allows the universe to grow the structures we observe. The missing piece is not behavior at cosmic scales. It is microscopic nature. That distinction matters because it changes how the mystery should be felt.
Dark matter is not a vague supernatural unknown. It is a highly constrained physical unknown, a specific absence in an otherwise increasingly precise model. That is what makes it so compelling. The better our maps become, the stranger it is that the central substance shaping those maps remains unidentified. Future progress may come from several directions at once. One path is direct detection. If a new detector finally records an interaction that cannot be explained away, and if that signal is confirmed independently, then dark matter could move from gravitational inference into the realm of particle identity. Another path is astronomy itself. Large surveys now map millions of galaxies and measure weak lensing over enormous areas of sky. These observations reveal how mass is distributed statistically across cosmic time. As that precision improves, certain dark matter models may fit better than others. Another route comes from simulations. As computing improves, scientists can model structure formation with increasing realism, including both dark matter and the complicated feedback processes of ordinary matter. That may help clarify whether small-scale discrepancies come from the dark sector itself or from astrophysical processes inside galaxies. There is also the possibility of indirect detection. If dark matter particles annihilate or decay under rare conditions, they might produce high-energy photons or other particles that could be observed. Such signals are difficult to interpret because the universe contains many energetic astrophysical sources, but the search continues. And then there is theory. Sometimes the limiting factor is not the data, but the framework used to interpret it.
New particle models, new dark sector ideas, or new connections between cosmology and fundamental physics may reshape the field again. Perhaps dark matter is not a single particle species. Perhaps it is a whole hidden sector with its own internal structure. Perhaps it interacts weakly with itself in ways only subtle observations can reveal. Or perhaps the eventual answer will be stranger than current categories suggest. Science has encountered such moments before. A persistent anomaly remains. Evidence grows. Old assumptions narrow. Then suddenly a new framework makes the pieces fit in a more intelligible way. Whether dark matter will yield in that manner is not yet known, but the search is not stagnant. It is steadily compressing the space of possibilities. And sometimes that is how understanding arrives, not in a flash, but through the gradual elimination of everything that cannot be true. There is also a more intimate way to think about all of this. Dark matter is not somewhere else. It is not only in distant clusters or remote galaxies seen through giant telescopes. If the current picture is correct, dark matter is present here too. Our own Milky Way sits inside a dark matter halo. The solar system moves through that halo as it orbits the galaxy. The Earth moves through it. You move through it. Not because dark matter collects in your room like dust, not because it gathers visibly around objects, but because the galaxy itself is embedded in a larger invisible structure, and everything within the galaxy travels through that environment. That idea can be hard to feel because there is no sensation attached to it, no sound, no glow, no resistance, no obvious local sign, and yet the larger motion of our galaxy depends on it. The stars in the Milky Way are not orbiting within a gravitational field generated only by visible matter. Their motion reflects the halo surrounding them. So even the familiar band of starlight that stretches across the night sky, the Milky Way seen from within, is part of a visible structure nested inside a hidden one.
This makes dark matter a different kind of cosmic presence. It is not hidden by distance, it is hidden by indifference. It does not respond to the sensory channels and instruments that first taught us how to know the universe. It is present, but not participatory in the ordinary luminous sense. That may be why the subject feels so quietly unsettling. It suggests that most matter does not belong to the category of matter we know best, that the material universe is not dominated by the kind of substance that forms atoms, chemistry, weather, oceans, rocks, bodies, and stars. Those things are rich and complex, but they are not typical. They are the bright minority. The dominant matter of the universe may be simple, dark, and nearly non-interacting, a background presence that shapes the stage on which visible complexity appears. If that is true, then the visible universe is not the full physical story. It is the luminous layer, the part that radiates, collides, heats, cools, condenses, and evolves dramatically. Dark matter does not do those things in the same way. It does not ignite into stars. It does not form glowing nebulae. It does not build planets or atmospheres or trees. Its role is quieter. It provides the gravitational framework. It shapes where visible matter can gather. It stabilizes structures. It influences motion across scales too large to ignore. All complexity unfolds inside that framework. That one-sided relationship is striking. Visible matter reacts intensely. It radiates energy. It changes state. It forms chemistry and biology. It builds all the intricate forms we recognize. Dark matter, by contrast, seems almost austere.
It remains in the background, massive, persistent, structurally important, yet behaviorally simple compared with the bright matter we know. And because it remains in the background, it is easy to underestimate its significance. But without it, the universe would likely not have developed the same way at all. Galaxies might have formed later, or differently, or not in the structures we now observe. Clusters might not have held together in the same way. The cosmic web might never have developed into its familiar pattern. So, although dark matter is not the source of visible beauty directly, it may be one of the deepest reasons that visible beauty exists. The stars do not shine because of dark matter, but many of the places where stars shine may owe their existence to it. In that sense, dark matter is not just another subject in astronomy. It is part of the hidden precondition for the luminous universe itself. There may also be limits to what observation alone can do. This does not mean dark matter is unknowable. It means the route to knowing it may be unusually indirect. Every method we use depends on interaction. We detect light. We register charged particles. We measure energy deposition. We observe forces acting in ways our instruments can record. If dark matter avoids most of those channels, then progress may always come first through structure, statistics, and gravitational effects. We may come to know dark matter the way one learns the shape of the wind by watching fields bend under it, not by seeing the thing itself clearly at first, but by tracing what it consistently does. That is still knowledge. It is just a different kind. And perhaps that is why the subject remains so compelling at a human level. Dark matter sits at the border between certainty and incompleteness. The evidence for its influence is powerful. The explanation of its nature is unfinished. We are far beyond vague speculation, yet not all the way to direct identification. This middle condition gives the subject its tension. It is not an empty mystery, it is a disciplined mystery.
The universe has revealed the outline. The interior remains dark. That may not always be true. One future experiment may shift the field. One repeated signal may open a new era. One elegant theoretical advance may make the hidden component finally intelligible. But for now, we live in a moment where the cosmos seems to tell us something both precise and humbling. Most of the matter in existence does not present itself to us in the forms we once expected matter to take. If you step back from the measurements, from the equations, from the detectors deep underground, and the lensing maps stretched across the sky, what remains is something surprisingly simple. The universe is coherent. Its structure is not arbitrary. Galaxies hold together. Clusters remain bound. Light follows curved paths that can be predicted. Matter gathers into filaments and leaves behind voids. The cosmos behaves as though an invisible mass is present everywhere structure matters. Not occasionally, not in one special region, not in a handful of unusual systems. Everywhere. That is the quiet power of the dark matter idea. It does not rely on a dramatic single image. It does not depend on one lucky observation. It emerges from consistency. The same conclusion appearing from rotation curves, from lensing, from cluster collisions, from large-scale structure, from the early universe. Consistency is one of science's deepest forms of persuasion, and here, the consistency is difficult to escape. When you look up at the night sky, the stars seem to define reality.
They are the obvious things, the visible things, the things that appear to fill space with meaning. But they are not the whole structure. They are the luminous fraction. Beyond the visible edge of every galaxy, between galaxies, through the filaments that span cosmic distances, there seems to be a larger presence, unlit, nearly silent, and essential. No telescope has given us a direct portrait of it. No instrument has yet delivered its identity with certainty. But motion points to it, gravity points to it, structure points to it. And perhaps that is enough for now to let the mind rest in a strange but steady thought that the universe we see is only the surface of a deeper arrangement, a bright layer resting within something darker and far more extensive, something that has been there since the earliest times, something that guided the growth of galaxies before stars fully lit them, something that still surrounds those galaxies now, shaping their motion without ever revealing a face. So when you imagine drifting through the Milky Way, past its stars, past its dust, past the final visible traces of the disk, you do not enter emptiness, you enter the halo, a vast region of invisible mass, a hidden extension of the galaxy, a reminder that the universe does not end where light fades. And when you look deeper still, to clusters, filaments, and the broad architecture of the cosmos, the same truth appears again. The visible universe is not the complete universe. It is the part that shines. The rest remains with us, not as color, not as texture, not as an image resolved by a lens, but as structure, as gravity, as persistence, as the reason galaxies do not fly apart, the reason clusters remain bound, the reason the cosmic web took shape at all. Something hidden, something ancient, something that does not need to glow in order to matter. And perhaps that is the most remarkable part. The universe is not held together only by what can be seen. It is held together in large part by something that never enters the light. So tonight, as the stars continue their quiet motion across the dark, you might remember that the darkness between them is not necessarily empty, that beyond every shining structure lies a larger, unseen one, that the night sky is not simply a display of objects, but a hint, an outline of an invisible design, and that far beyond the last bright stars and all around them, and even here, moving with our own galaxy through the dark, there is still something present, not visible, not resolved, not understood in full, but there, holding the universe in shape.
Somewhere in the quiet structure of reality, nothing is actually still. Not the ground beneath you, not the air around you, not the planet you stand on. Everything is moving. You just do not feel it. Because motion, when it is constant, disappears from perception. Your brain does not detect movement. It detects change. So when everything moves together, it becomes invisible. And what remains is the illusion of stillness. And tonight, we are not imagining that illusion. We are simply observing how it exists, not as a story, not as interpretation, but as a sequence of structures that define where you are right now. We begin with something familiar, the Earth, a surface that feels stable, a world that feels fixed, a place your mind calls home.
But even this foundation is not still. It rotates, it orbits, it drifts through space on a path that never stops. And this is only the beginning of motion, because beyond Earth there is the Moon, a body held in constant orbital balance, always falling, always missing, always continuing. And beyond the Moon there is the Sun, a gravitational system holding everything in continuous motion. And beyond the Sun, the galaxy itself, a structure so large that even light takes thousands of years to cross it, spinning, moving, expanding, all at once. If you could step outside this system and observe it from a distance, you would not find stillness anywhere, only layered motion, smaller systems inside larger systems, smaller movements inside larger movements, a universe that never pauses. And yet, inside it, you feel still. Let's begin where perception feels strongest, on the surface of the Earth. Right now, as you are listening, nothing around you seems to be moving. The ground feels fixed. The air feels still. Your body feels at rest. But that feeling is not a measurement of reality. It is only a filtered interpretation. Because beneath that sense of stability, the Earth is constantly in motion. It is rotating, a full spin every single day, a continuous movement that never stops, never slows, and never resets. You are not on a stationary surface. You are on a sphere turning through space at thousands of kilometers per hour. But your nervous system does not register this, because everything around you is moving together. The air, the ground, the buildings, your body, all sharing the same motion. And when motion is shared, it disappears from perception.
Somewhere in the quiet structure of reality, nothing is actually still. The room around you feels like a fixed point in the universe, but it is only a temporary agreement between your senses and the physics of scale. If you look at the walls, the floor, the furniture, they appear to be anchored to a permanent foundation, but the foundation itself is a moving object. Your brain does not experience reality as it is. It experiences a simplified version of reality, a version built for stability, not accuracy. If you were to feel every vibration of the tectonic plates, every shift in the crust, every hum of the atmosphere, your experience would become unstable, too complex, too chaotic. So the brain filters. It removes what does not change. It focuses only on differences. And because the motion of the Earth is constant, it produces no contrast. Without contrast, there is no perception. What remains is the illusion of stillness. Think for a moment about the air in the room. The air feels still. It does not feel like a wind is blowing at over 1,000 kilometers per hour, but that is because the air is not separate from the Earth's motion. The atmosphere is a layer, a heavy, invisible blanket that is locked to the planet by gravity. As the sphere of the Earth turns, the air turns with it, the clouds turn with it, you turn with it. Everything is synchronized in the same movement. Because this motion is shared, it disappears from perception. Imagine a glass of water sitting on a table. The surface of the water is flat, reflective, perfect. It looks like the definition of rest. But the water, the glass, and the table are all moving at 1,600 kilometers per hour at the equator. They are spinning through the dark. They are leaning into the curvature of the planet. But because there is no acceleration, no slowing down, and no sudden turns, the water remains flat. The liquid does not ripple. The glass does not slide. Your body does not sway. This is the nature of constant velocity. When motion is uniform, it becomes invisible.
We live our lives inside this invisible torrent. We build our cities on a sphere that is never at rest. A sphere that is rotating a full spin every single day. This is a continuous movement that never stops, never slows, and never resets. It is a rhythm that began billions of years ago, a momentum inherited from the birth of the solar system. The Earth does not need an engine to turn. It does not need energy to maintain its spin. It simply continues, because there is nothing in the vacuum of space to stop it. If you were to stand at the North Pole, you would be slowly pirouetting in place, completing one circle every 24 hours. If you were to stand at the equator, you would be rushing through space at your maximum planetary speed. And yet, in both places, the feeling would be the same. The ground would feel fixed. The horizon would feel steady. This is the gift of your biology. Your nervous system does not register the rotation. It is an optimization, a survival mechanism. It allows you to focus on the small changes in your immediate environment, while the massive, constant, cosmic movements happen in the background. But even as you listen, the rotation is doing its work. It is shaping the weather. It is pulling the oceans into tidal bulges. It is creating the Coriolis effect that spins the storms across the sea. The motion is not silent in its effects. It is only silent in its feeling. Every second, you are being displaced. Every second, you are being carried further along the curve. You are moving through a void so vast that your speed seems negligible. But in human terms, you are traveling faster than any sound you have ever heard. And beyond the rotation, there is the drift. The Earth is not just spinning in place, it is falling around the sun. It is tracing a dynamic curve shaped by gravity, velocity, and time. This path is not a circle drawn on a map. It is a journey through three-dimensional space. Even now, even in silence, even while you feel still, you are being displaced further along that path. The room you are in is not in the same location it was a minute ago. It has traveled thousands of kilometers through the solar system. It has moved into a part of space it will never visit again.
This is the layered motion of your existence. Smaller systems inside larger systems. Smaller movements inside larger movements. A universe that never pauses. And yet, inside it, you feel still. This stillness is not an error, it is a translation your brain performs to make continuous motion understandable. As you settle into this realization, let the weight of the Earth support you. The planet is heavy, solid, and reliable. It carries you without effort. It maintains its balance without your help. It rotates with a precision that exceeds any clock. It does not rush. It does not falter. It simply follows the curvature of space-time, and you are part of that structure. You are not separate from the motion. You are inside it, completely. There is a comfort in this continuity, knowing that the Earth will continue its rotation, knowing that the atmosphere will continue to share that movement, knowing that the path around the sun is stable. It is a system that has found its balance, a balance that requires nothing from us. It continues whether it is watched or not. It is a structure built on the fundamental laws of physics, moving at a pace that allows for nothing but contemplation. When you feel still,
You are experiencing the absence of detectable change. You are experiencing the harmony of being synchronized with your world. You are moving with the ground. You are moving with the air. You are moving with the stars. In the quiet structure of that realization, there is nothing to fix. There is only understanding.
Now we move one layer deeper. The moon. The moon is not simply above the Earth. It is locked in a continuous orbital relationship. It is always falling toward Earth, but it never reaches it. Instead, it keeps missing, and that constant falling becomes an orbit, a perfect balance between motion and gravity, a path that is not static but endlessly repeating. From Earth, it appears calm, slow, predictable, but in reality, it is part of a constant gravitational exchange that never stops. And then there is the next layer. The Earth is not only rotating, it is also orbiting the Sun, a vast, continuous path through space, not in a circle that is drawn, but in a dynamic curve shaped by gravity, velocity, and time. Every second, you are displaced further along that path, even now, even in silence, even while you feel still. And yet, this motion is not isolated. The Earth and Moon system together is moving around the Sun as a single gravitational unit, a combined structure of motion, a system within a system, a rhythm inside a larger rhythm. At this scale, nothing behaves like a fixed object anymore. Everything becomes part of a larger flow. The Earth is not standing in space, it is traveling through it. The Moon is not hovering, it is circling within a moving system. And the Sun itself is not static either. It is pulling everything along its own path through the galaxy. So at this point, we can already see the pattern forming. Motion is not an exception, it is the default state. Everything is moving, even what feels still, even what feels permanent, even what feels like now. We now move beyond the solar system into something far larger, a structure so vast that individual motion begins to fade from perception, the galaxy itself. Now we go beyond what the eye can ever directly perceive, beyond the Earth, beyond the Moon, beyond the Sun. Because the entire solar system itself is not standing still, it is moving, not locally, not slowly in any human sense, but as a single system traveling through the galaxy, a massive gravitational structure carrying everything you know along with it. The Sun is not fixed in space, it is orbiting the center of the Milky Way, and it is not alone. It carries with it every planet, every asteroid, every comet, every fragment of matter bound by its gravity. All of it moves together as one system. This motion is not like the Earth's rotation. It is not something you can feel. It is not something your body can adapt to, because it is too large, too slow in human perception, yet too powerful in scale. The solar system completes one full orbit around the galaxy in hundreds of millions of years, a timescale so large that no human lifetime can witness even a fraction of it. And yet, it is happening right now. As the solar system moves, it does not travel through empty space in a straight line. It follows a curved, dynamic path shaped by the gravity of the Milky Way, a path that bends, shifts, and continues without interruption. Always forward, never repeating in exactly the same way. And here is where perception begins to fail completely. because nothing inside this system feels motion at this scale. There is no wind, no acceleration, no directional force that tells you are moving through a galaxy. Instead, everything feels still, because everything inside the system shares the same movement. Your body, the Earth, the atmosphere, the ground beneath you, all moving together through space as a single coordinated structure. And when everything moves together, there is no reference point left to detect motion. This is why galaxies feel silent, not because they are inactive, but because their motion is too unified to be perceived internally. And yet, even this is not the final layer, because the galaxy itself is not still. It is part of something even larger, a structure so vast that it bends the idea of motion into something continuous and unavoidable. A structure shaped not just by stars, but by invisible matter that holds everything together. Now, we go deeper into that hidden structure, into what cannot be seen, but shapes everything you are inside of.
Now, we move beyond the local neighborhood of our sun into the vast turning structure of the Milky Way. We have observed how the Earth rotates, how the Moon orbits, and how the planets trail the sun like a wake behind a ship. But at this scale, the motion takes on a different geometry. The sun is not merely a central point of light, it is a traveler. It moves through the galactic disk at over 700,000 kilometers per hour, carrying its entire family of planets with it. Imagine the solar system not as a flat map, but as a vortex. As the sun rushes forward, the planets follow in a helical path, spiraling through the void in a continuous, repeating, infinite dance. The Earth does not return to the same place it was a year ago. Space itself is not a static grid that we circle. We are moving into new territory every second, every breath, every heartbeat. And yet, because we share this velocity with everything around us, the stars appear fixed. The night sky feels like a permanent roof, when in reality, it is a shifting landscape of hundreds of billions of suns, all moving according to their own gravitational laws. The Milky Way is a spiral structure, a massive disk of stars and gas that slowly turns around a center we cannot see. At the heart of this rotation lies a point of unimaginable density, a gravitational anchor that holds the entire galaxy in a unified flow. It takes our solar system over 200 million years to complete a single lap around this center. Think of the scale of that time. The last time the Earth was in this exact position in the galaxy, dinosaurs were only just beginning to walk upon the surface. We are part of a rhythm so slow that it exceeds the history of our species, and yet it is happening right now. Even as you listen, we are drifting further along that galactic curve.
But this rotation is not maintained by the light we see alone. As we move deeper into the structure, we encounter the presence of what cannot be observed. The visible stars, the glowing nebulae, the dust clouds, they do not have enough mass to hold the galaxy together. By the laws of physics, the Milky Way should fly apart, its stars scattering into the intergalactic void. But it stays whole because of dark matter. This missing structure does not emit light. It does not reflect it. It does not absorb it. It is a silent framework, an invisible ocean of gravity that cradles the stars and dictates their motion.
You are moving through this invisible sea right now, drifting within an architecture of matter that remains hidden from your eyes but holds your world in place. At this scale, stillness is a concept that has no meaning. Every star you see is a moving system. Every dark patch between them is a field of energy and invisible mass. The galaxy is not a static object, it is a continuous behavior. And even the Milky Way, as vast as it is not separate from the larger motion of the universe. It belongs to a cluster of galaxies, a local group that is being pulled toward even larger concentrations of mass. Systems inside systems, movements inside movements. The motion of the universe itself. Everything we have discussed so far is motion through space, but there is also the motion of space. The universe is expanding. The very grid of reality is stretching. The distances between the furthest galaxies are growing larger every second. This is not a movement that has a direction. It is a movement that happens everywhere at once. It is the ultimate continuation, a process that has been ongoing since the beginning of time and shows no sign of pausing.
Think of the silence of this expansion. It does not produce a sound. It does not create a wind. It does not push against your body. It is the quietest movement in existence, the slow, steady, inevitable stretching of the fabric of space-time. Even as you feel still, even as the room around you remains fixed, the distance between our galaxy and the furthest reaches of the cosmos is increasing. You are inside a structure that is literally growing beneath you and around you and within you. This is why perception selects only what it can process. If we could feel the rotation of the Earth, the orbit of the Moon, the voyage of the Sun, and the expansion of the universe all at once, it would be overwhelming. So the brain simplifies. It creates the feeling of stillness so that you can rest, so that you can function, so that you can breathe. The stillness you feel is not the truth of the universe. It is the peace provided by your own mind. As we conclude this layer of our journey, return your awareness to the immediate present. The Earth is still rotating, the solar system is still traveling, the Milky Way is still turning, and the universe is still expanding. None of this requires your effort. None of this requires your attention. You are simply being carried by a system that has found its balance. A balance that has existed for billions of years and will continue for billions more. In the quiet structure of that continuation, there is nothing to solve. There is only the reality of motion and the comfort of the silence it leaves behind.
At this point, we move beyond the solar system entirely. Now we are inside the Milky Way itself. A spiral structure made of hundreds of billions of stars. Each star moving, each system drifting, each region following gravitational paths that are too large and too slow to feel. The Milky Way is not a static image. It is a rotating structure. A vast disk of matter slowly turning around a center we cannot directly see from our position. And everything inside it is part of that rotation, including the sun, including the solar system, including you. But what makes this layer even more difficult to understand is not just its size, it is its invisibility. Because most of what holds the galaxy together is not visible at all.
There is more mass in the galaxy than what we can see in stars and gas. This missing structure is what scientists call dark matter. Not because it is mysterious in a mystical sense, but because it does not interact with light. It does not emit it. It does not absorb it. It does not reflect it. It simply exists through gravity. And yet, it shapes the motion of everything we can see. The stars do not move randomly inside the galaxy. They move as if held inside an invisible framework, a gravitational structure we cannot directly observe but can measure through its effects. This means the Milky Way is not just stars and space. It is a layered system, visible matter, invisible matter, and motion binding it all together. And through this system, the solar system continues its journey, not in isolation, but as part of a larger gravitational architecture, a structure that has been moving for billions of years and will continue moving long after any single human lifetime ends. At this scale, stillness becomes meaningless. There is no fixed reference point inside the galaxy. Everything is relative. Everything is moving. Everything is part of a continuous gravitational flow. And yet, even here, the illusion remains. From your perspective, sitting on Earth, nothing feels like motion, because perception does not scale to galaxies. It only scales to immediate change. So the galaxy moves, but you do not feel it. The stars move, but you do not notice them shifting. The solar system travels, but the sky appears constant. And this is the final point where human perception breaks. Because what feels like a stable night sky is actually a structure in motion, always. Now we will bring everything together, from Earth to the solar system, to the galaxy, and into the idea that motion itself is not something you experience, but something you exist inside of. Now we step back from scale, from planets, from stars, from galaxies, and we look at the pattern that connects everything. Because across every layer we have explored, one principle remains unchanged. Nothing is still. Not at any scale that matters. At the level of atoms, particles are constantly in motion. Even in solid objects, nothing is truly motionless. What feels like solid matter is actually a dense structure of movement. Particles vibrating, fields interacting, energy continuously shifting between states. At the level of planets, motion becomes orbital. Bodies falling through curved space-time, locked in gravitational relationships that never fully settle. At the level of solar systems, motion becomes collective. Entire systems traveling together through the galaxy, too large and too slow to feel, but always present.
At the level of galaxies, motion becomes structural. Stars embedded in vast rotating systems, held together by visible and invisible matter, moving according to patterns shaped by gravity across unimaginable distances. And across all of this, one thing does not change. You are always inside the motion, never outside it, never separate from it. This is why stillness feels real, because your perception is not designed to detect constant movement. It is designed to detect change. So when everything around you moves together, your mind simplifies it into stability. A useful illusion, not a mistake, but a limitation of scale. And this is the quiet conclusion of everything we have explored. Stillness is not something that exists in the physical universe. It is created by perception, a translation your brain performs to make continuous motion understandable.
You are not standing still on Earth. You are part of a system rotating, orbiting, and traveling through space. You are not in a static galaxy. You are inside a structure in motion, and you are not separate from it. You are carried by it. Even now, as you listen, nothing has paused. The Earth continues to rotate. The solar system continues its path. The Milky Way continues its slow rotation, and the universe continues its expansion beyond what can be seen. There is no moment where everything stops. There is only continuous movement at different scales, and your perception selects only what it can process. So when you feel still, what you are actually experiencing is not absence of motion, it is the absence of detectable change. And in the quiet structure of that realization, there is nothing to correct, nothing to fix, nothing to resolve, only understanding. This is the nature of the universe you are inside, not static, not silent, but always moving, always continuing, always becoming. Now we move away from space itself, and we focus on something closer, your perception. Because everything we have explored so far exists outside of you. Earth, the solar system, the galaxy, the structure of the universe. But none of it is actually felt directly. It is interpreted, reconstructed, filtered. Your brain does not experience reality as it is. It experiences a simplified version of reality, a version built for stability, not accuracy. Every second, your senses receive an overwhelming amount of information: light patterns, sound waves, pressure changes, internal body signals, external motion. If all of this were processed fully, continuously, and equally, your experience would become unstable, too complex, too chaotic, too much to maintain as a coherent sense of self. So the brain does something essential. It filters. It removes what does not change. It focuses only on differences, only on transitions, only on variation. This is why constant motion disappears from awareness, because motion, when it is uniform, produces no contrast, and without contrast, there is no perception.
The Earth is rotating, but everything around you rotates with it. The atmosphere, the ground, the objects in your environment, your body itself, all synchronized in the same movement. So your brain does not register movement, it registers stability. This is not an error, it is an optimization, a survival mechanism, a way to keep experience coherent. Now extend this principle further. The solar system is moving through the galaxy, but this motion is shared across everything inside it. So again, no internal reference exists to detect it. And the galaxy itself is moving, but everything inside the galaxy moves together at large scale. So the same rule applies again. At every level of the universe you have explored, motion only becomes visible when there is a difference, a change, a contrast between two states. Without contrast, motion becomes invisible, and what remains is the feeling of stillness. This is why the universe can be in constant motion and yet feel completely static, because perception is not designed to track absolute motion, it is designed to track relative change. And this creates a quiet illusion, a stable world, a fixed sky, a grounded earth, a sense that nothing is moving unless it is directly noticeable. But that sense is not a reflection of reality. It is a reflection of limitation, a limitation that keeps your experience stable enough to function. Now, something important becomes clear. Stillness is not something that exists in the universe. It is created inside perception. And as soon as you understand this, your relationship with motion changes slightly. Not dramatically, not emotionally, but structurally. Because you begin to see that what you call rest is not absence of movement, but absence of detectable difference. You are always inside motion, but you are only aware of fragments of it. Now, we will step back once more and bring all layers together, slowly, without urgency, as a final quiet observation of everything you have just followed. Now, we return to where we began, but with a different perspective, because nothing we have explored was separate. It was layered, one system inside a larger system. We start again with the Earth, a rotating world, turning continuously through space, carrying oceans, continents, atmosphere, and life in a single shared movement. A motion so constant that it disappears from awareness. Above it, the moon continues its orbit, a slow gravitational balance, always falling, always missing, always continuing. And beyond both, the Earth-Moon system moves around the Sun, a vast orbit that takes time beyond ordinary human comprehension to complete, a path not drawn, but lived continuously. And the Sun, carrying everything with it, travels through the Milky Way, not in isolation, but as part of a larger gravitational structure, a system that has been moving long before any human observer existed and will continue long after. And the Milky Way itself rotates, a spiral structure of stars, gas, and invisible mass, held together by gravity and dark matter. A structure that behaves not like a static object, but like a slow, living system in motion. And above even that, there are structures larger still. Galaxy clusters, cosmic filaments, the large-scale structure of the universe itself, expanding, stretching, evolving, without pause.
At every scale, the same principle repeats. Motion within motion, system within system, layer upon layer of continuous change. And yet, from your perspective, everything feels still, because your perception does not scale with the universe. It only scales with immediate change. So what you experience as now is not a point of stillness. It is a small window inside continuous motion, a window shaped by the limits of perception. And as you follow this idea back through every layer, Earth, Moon, Sun, Galaxy, Universe, you begin to notice something subtle. Nothing ever actually stops. There is no final resting point, no absolute still frame, no moment where motion ends. There is only continuation. And this continuation does not require awareness to exist. It does not depend on observation. It does not pause when unnoticed. It simply continues, quietly, consistently, without interruption. And in that continuity, your experience of stillness remains intact, not because motion stops, but because perception selects only what it needs. So when you feel still, you are not outside motion, you are inside it, completely. And now we arrive at the final layer,
Not a conclusion, not an ending, but a gradual release of attention. Because nothing more is required to be understood. Nothing more needs to be solved. Nothing more needs to be added. The Earth continues, the solar system continues, the galaxy continues, the universe continues, and your awareness simply rests inside that continuation, quiet, stable, observing without needing to interpret further. This is where the narration naturally dissolves, not into silence, but into continuation without explanation. A space where thought no longer needs structure, only presence. And from here, there is only ambient motion, slow, unchanging in its constant change. Now we slow everything down, because at this point, there is nothing new to discover, only the same structure seen from a quieter distance. The Earth is still moving. It has always been moving. It will continue moving long after this moment passes. A rotation that never stops. A path through space that does not pause for awareness. And yet, nothing in your immediate experience reflects that scale directly. Only the result of it. A stable surface, a steady horizon, a sense of continuity that feels unbroken. The moon continues its orbit in the same way, not as a dramatic motion, but as a quiet agreement between gravity and distance, a balance that repeats without variation. It does not need attention to continue. It does not require observation to persist. It simply follows the same invisible rule.
And the sun, holding everything together, continues its slow journey through the galaxy, carrying the entire solar system as one structure, not separated, not fragmented, but unified in motion. A system that behaves as a single object at a scale too large to feel. At this point, it becomes easier to notice a pattern. The larger the system, the less it is felt internally. Not because it is less active, but because it is too complete in its movement to create contrast. And contrast is what perception depends on. So what remains is a quiet consistency, a sense that things are stable, even when nothing about the system is still. You are not missing the motion. You are simply not designed to sense it directly. And that is enough for the experience of reality to remain coherent. Now, the focus gently shifts away from explanation, because explanation itself begins to soften at this stage. There is no need to hold each idea tightly anymore. They have already been established. Earth is moving. The solar system is moving. The galaxy is moving. The universe is continuing. Each layer does not compete with the others. They exist together, stacked, nested, continuous. And as this becomes clear, the mind no longer needs to actively track each level. It begins to let go of structure, not suddenly, but gradually, like tension leaving a system that no longer needs to maintain effort. The idea of where you are becomes less important, because location itself is part of motion, and motion itself is no longer something that needs to be followed, only acknowledged once and then released. Everything continues without interruption, and that continuation does not require attention to function. It does not depend on awareness. It does not change when it is not observed. It simply persists. So the role of thinking becomes lighter, less directional, less structured,
more like background awareness than active analysis. And as that shift happens, the earlier ideas do not disappear. They just stop demanding engagement. They remain in place, but no longer require processing. Earth continues. Moon continues. Sun continues. Galaxy continues. And all of it remains part of the same uninterrupted system. There is nothing to solve here, nothing to complete, nothing to reach, only continuity. And in that continuity, perception no longer tries to separate layers. It begins to see them as one field of motion, different scales of the same principle.
And when that recognition settles, even lightly, the need to mentally follow anything begins to fade, not into emptiness, but into simplicity. Because understanding has already happened, and what remains is only the echo of that understanding, slowly dispersing. The sense of structure becomes less sharp. The sense of analysis becomes less active, and the sense of holding information begins to dissolve. There is no urgency left in the system, no direction it needs to follow, no conclusion it needs to reach. Only the continuation of everything exactly as it already is. And from here, nothing new is added, because nothing new is required. The same reality remains, unchanged in its motion. Only your attention shifts away from it slightly, not by force, but by release. And that is enough. Because motion was never something to understand completely, only something to exist within. And now even that thought begins to soften, until it no longer feels like a thought at all, just a quiet awareness that everything continues, and that you are already within it. At this point, we do not add anything new. There is no new layer to introduce, no additional structure to build, only a quieter return to what has already been present from the beginning. The Earth continues its rotation, not as something to analyze, but as something that simply persists, a motion that does not require awareness to function. The Moon continues its orbit, not changing its rhythm for observation, not adjusting its path for perception, only continuing the balance it has always maintained. The solar system continues its journey through the galaxy, not as separate objects moving independently, but as a single system carried through space, unified in motion. And the galaxy continues its slow structural rotation, along with everything inside it. Stars, systems, space itself shaped by unseen mass, all part of the same continuous behavior. Nothing in this system pauses. Nothing requires interruption to exist. Nothing depends on being noticed in order to continue. And yet, from the perspective of experience, everything feels still. Because perception does not track continuity, it tracks change. And when change is not present in a way that stands out, it fades from awareness. So what remains is a stable impression, a quiet sense of now, a moment that feels fixed, even though it is part of an ongoing flow that never stops. And as this becomes more clear, the need to actively follow each idea begins to reduce, not because the ideas disappear, but because they no longer need to be held tightly in attention. They remain present, but they no longer demand effort.
Earth is still moving, The solar system is still moving. The galaxy is still moving. The universe is still continuing. And all of this does not require interpretation to remain true. It is independent of awareness, independent of observation, independent of understanding. So thinking begins to soften again, not collapsing, not ending, but slowing in intensity, like a system that no longer needs to calculate every detail, because the structure is already known. And in that quiet recognition, even the idea of following the explanation becomes less important. There is nothing left to track, only continuity itself. A continuity that does not need to be named or divided or examined further. It simply exists and has always existed. And as attention stops trying to hold each layer separately, everything begins to feel less segmented, more unified. Not because anything has changed, but because nothing needs to be separated anymore. And in that state, even language becomes less necessary. Words begin to lose urgency. Sentences begin to lose weight. Meaning remains, but effort fades. Until what is left is not analysis, not interpretation, not structure, but a quiet awareness that everything continues exactly as it is, and nothing more is required beyond that. At this point, there is nothing further to build, only a continuation of the same system observed with less effort. The Earth continues moving through space, exactly as it has been since long before any human awareness of it existed. The motion does not depend on attention. It does not increase or decrease based on observation. It simply continues as a constant condition of existence. The moon remains in its orbital relationship, held by gravity in a balance that does not require adjustment. A path that repeats without deviation, not because it is forced to repeat, but because it is defined by the structure it belongs to. The solar system continues its journey through the galaxy as a single unified system, not separate elements moving independently, but a connected structure carried through a larger field of motion. A motion so large that it cannot be felt internally, only understood in concept. The galaxy itself continues its slow rotation, shaped by visible matter and invisible mass alike. A structure that does not behave like a static object, but like a continuous process, always in transition, always in motion, never arriving at a final state. Across all of these layers, nothing pauses, nothing resets, nothing returns to a still point, because a still point does not exist in the system. Only relative motion exists. And because perception depends on contrast, not continuity, most of this motion remains outside direct experience. Not hidden, not removed, just not expressed in a way the senses can isolate. So what is experienced instead is a simplified version, a stable interpretation, a coherent frame of reference that allows daily awareness to function without interruption. And that is enough for experience to feel complete, even while it is partial, even while it is limited in scale, even while it is surrounded by motion it does not directly register. At this stage, explanation itself becomes less necessary, because explanation is only needed when something is not yet integrated. And here, nothing new is being introduced. only the same structure seen again without urgency. Earth continues, the solar system continues, the Milky Way continues, the universe continues. And none of this requires attention to exist. They do not pause for awareness. They do not adjust for observation. They simply continue. At the same time, your perception does not directly experience this motion. It receives only a simplified version of reality, a stable frame, a quiet interpretation of constant change. And that is enough for experience to remain coherent. Nothing is missing from what can be perceived. Only more exists than can be held at once. So instead of adding more explanation, everything begins to soften. Structure becomes less important. Detail becomes less sharp. Thinking slows without effort. There is no need to follow each idea separately anymore. They have already been understood. They remain present, but no longer require focus.
Earth continues its rotation. The solar system continues its path through space. The galaxy continues its slow movement. The universe continues expanding. None of this depends on being noticed. None of this requires interpretation. None of this stops when attention shifts away. It simply continues, quietly, consistently, without interruption. And as this becomes clearer, the need to hold structure begins to fade. Not suddenly, but gradually, like a system releasing tension it no longer needs. What remains is continuity, not as a concept, but as a background state. Everything continues, and nothing interrupts that continuation. And in that quiet understanding, there is nothing further that needs to be said. No conclusion to reach, no final point to hold. Only continuation, and awareness resting gently inside it.